All right, well, I'll get to the Trump and Musk drama in a second, but first to matters Australian. Australia is in very bad hands politically. Our political class really are an incredibly unimpressive mob, I'm afraid to say. Too many of them are dull and uninspiring, very average bureaucrat types meandering their way through sad, pathetic political careers, making sure that they do as little as possible so as to be able to exploit the grift of sucking at the taxpayers' teat for as long as they possibly can. The worst of them are downright corrupted by foreign interests or money from lobbyists and interest groups like the horribly over-supported wind and solar energy industry. And our media, sadly, isn't much better. Our ludicrous socialist treasurer, Jim Chalmers, is completely delulu. What a ridiculous comment he made this week when the appalling economic growth data came out. He said that with all the uncertainty in the world, any growth is a decent outcome. No, it's not. We are back into negative GDP per capita growth. Our economy is going backwards. With the exception of one quarter, the December quarter, Australia has had negative GDP per capita growth for 8 of the past 9 quarters. Now, 2 quarters in succession of negative growth is the definition, technically, of a recession. And I don't want to hear people saying, oh, but the overall GDP number isn't going backwards. GDP per capita, GDP per head, per person, that number is the only number that matters because it takes out the lie and the cheating effect of using immigration to drive up the overall GDP number. You've got to divide it by the number of people in the country. The GDP per capita fell by 0.2% in the March quarter. It might be good if we had a treasurer who, instead of trying to spin his way out of the mess we're in, at least had the human decency and a microdot of courage enough to admit the mess we're in first. Evidence of our general nervousness as a community can be seen in the fact that people are saving more. Household saving is up from 3.9% last quarter to 5.2% in the first quarter of 2025. That's a huge jump. So people are nervous. And our terrible productivity problem continues. But hey, let's tax the productive people in our country even more, shall we? We wouldn't want to incentivize the people who actually know how to create value and grow a business to actually do more of it by leaving the wealth in their hands. Oh no, we have to tax them and give the wealth to the unproductive and the government bureaucrats to manage because, oh, that's a responsible way to run a country. Honestly, we are ruled by clowns and we've just handed them absolute power. 94 seats out of 150 in the lower house for Labor and 39 in the upper house for Labor and the Greens combined out of 76. That gives the left a comfortable majority in both houses of Parliament to keep running this great nation into the ground. You know, it really takes something to wreck a nation as blessed as this one, but they're giving it a damn good crack. And as for our opposition, well, don't expect too much oppositioning or any real alternative emerging out of the left-infiltrated Liberal Party. After listening to all sides in the election aftermath analysis, I am left convinced that the only hope that we've got is if a totally new political force emerges. If by some miracle the centre-right in this country can get its act together and get organised with the right, professionally organised around a group of people, not ego-driven individuals with saviour complexes, and actually create a popular, proper, centre-right political force, then we might stand some hope. And the other bunch that are going to have to really lift their game are the forces of capital, the money people, the business community. This cosy relationship that the business community has developed with the left in the past decade or two, the weird world of corporate social responsibility and ESG and DEI and the Frankenstein horror that we get of corporations pretending to care about all our social issues. All this started after the Occupy Wall Street protest scared the crap out of the corporate world in America, and big global PR firms saw a way to make a quick buck out of it by helping big business pretend that it cares for all things woke. This cozy relationship between those who are supposed to defend the free market and classical liberal economics, who profited from it, big capital, big business, and medium-sized business, those who want those people and those who want big daddy and mummy government to control everything, the other group, that little cozy relationship has got to end. Big business needs to rediscover its testicular fortitude and stop equally funding both sides of politics and hedging its bets, because it's funding its own long-term demise for short-term gain. There is absolutely nothing sustainable about that, kids. Big capital needs to get behind a new centre-right, pro-business, pro-small government, pro-freedom, pro-achievement and merit political party and stop its pussyfooting around with the left. The left are never going to like you, and they will eventually regulate you out of existence. So the private sector money and thinking in this country needs to find its way back into supporting private sector politics and people, or there will be no private sector left soon. No investors will remain if they're all taxed to death. No talent will remain if there's no rewards for effort. And no good people in non-left-wing cultural pursuits, like this show, for example, will bother if we aren't supported by capital. If corporate advertisers remain too gutless to spend on Sky News and conservative radio and new media like this, if businesses continue to sponsor crap woke causes, then you'll get the cultural environment that makes it impossible for anything non-left-wing to emerge. And we're not too far off that point already, I don't reckon. Certainly the Liberal Party has given up on being non-left-wing or bothering to try to shift the culture. Hopefully the gaping hole that they leave in our political landscape will be filled soon by somebody with a brain and somebody with basic courage, decency and morality. All right, to the spat between Trump and Musk now. It had been brewing for a while, but it really blew up overnight Friday morning Australian time. It all started earlier in the week when Musk took a pretty hard swing at Trump's latest economic plan, nicknamed the Big Beautiful Bill. Musk didn't hold back, calling it, quote, a disgusting abomination. So before we explain the spat, what exactly is the Big Beautiful Bill? Well, it is the main piece of legislation, the main law of Trump's first year. It's a bill that he wants passed in Congress, America's Parliament, that covers several major policy initiatives, including an expansion of tax cuts, big spending cuts, border security, and the regulation of AI. So why does Musk dislike it so much? Well, cynics say it's because it cuts government subsidies to electric vehicles. But the less cynical would say it's simply because Musk was the guy charged with cutting government spending under Trump's Doge department by $1 trillion. Now, he found that hard enough. They only saved about 1/8 of that amount in the end. But now, according to the Congressional Budget Office, this big, beautiful bill, Trump's new laws, are projected to increase the federal budget deficit by approximately $3.8 trillion over the next decade. A trillion is a million, by the way. $3.8 trillion over the next decade. So that's not good. And Musk also says the bill is full of unnecessary spending initiatives that just amount to pork barreling. That means a lot of goodies just being handed out in local areas for political interests and to favours to Republican Congress people so that they can get people in their own area on side. They don't align with the general principle, as far as Musk is concerned, of efficient governance. Now, the White House was brushing off Musk's comments earlier in the week, saying that the bill will boost the economy. But then Elon went even harder later in the week, retweeting this. Interest payments already consume 25% of all government revenue. That's the interest payments on the debt. If the massive deficit spending continues, there'll only be money for interest payments and nothing else. No Social Security, no medical, no defense, nothing. So Elon was retweeting a post from a Wall Street Maverick site which pointed out that the US budget deficit is going to be over $2 trillion per year going forward. That's $2 trillion the government's spending more than they're bringing in, adding to that huge $37 trillion national debt. Now, we pay over $100 billion per month in interest on the national debt, the Post reads. That's $1.2 trillion a year. That's about 25% of all government revenue just going to pay the interest on the debt. So Elon and Wall Street Maverick there are trying to explain to people the impact of carrying a big government debt. And we've got a similar problem here in Australia with almost $1.5 trillion in gross debt across our state and federal governments. So work it out, right? If interest rates average around 5%, the governments will be paying $75 billion a year in interest. And if we wanted to pay down the principal over 10 years, that'd be $225 billion a year to pay it down over 10 years. So if you add those two numbers together, that's about $300 billion. And that's about a third of all government revenue, federal, state, and local, that we get every year, right? Going to pay an interest bill on the debt of government. A disgusting waste. So put simply, government is way too big. We need to support the private sector and shrink the size of our bloated governments fast to get ourselves out of trouble. But with a Labor green machine running the show and an opposition full of career politicians who also love the idea of big government, we aren't going to be seeing any cuts in government spending anytime soon in Australia. All right, getting back to America. The whole spat between Trump and Musk really blew up on Friday morning our time, with Trump tweeting this on his platform Truth Social. He said, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his electric vehicle mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy. Elon then responded by saying, such an obvious lie, so sad. And then later tweeted this, whatever, keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched. Very unfair. But ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in this bill. In the entire history of civilization, there's never been legislation that is both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way. All right, now, at this point, I'm still agreeing with Elon technically, but then he went a step too far and hit way below the belt. Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they've not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. And with that one bad tweet, Elon loses all credibility in the eyes of many. Nobody is surprised or cares much if Trump associated with Epstein. Almost every rich individual in New York associated with Epstein in that era. That doesn't mean they got massages from underage girls. So you'll need a higher test of proof of any wrongdoing than that, Elon. But even so, nobody voted for Donald Trump because of his private life or his sex life. Blech. People voted for Donald Trump for his leadership and his management ability. So raising this at this time just shows Elon up as being very, very childish. If you really think there's wrongdoing here, then how long have you known about it, Elon, and why didn't you come forward sooner? This really is quite pathetic. And on community notes on X itself, we saw this emerge pretty fast. Evidence shows DJT name is in Epstein's flight logs. There's no indication of wrongdoing. The files were released by Trump's administration on February 27, 2025, contradicting claims they were withheld to protect him. No new incriminating details about Trump have emerged. So in summary, Elon is very right about government overspending, but he's handling all of this appallingly, and he's out of his depth. Politics is very different to business, and Trump's popularity factor is about 10 million times that of Elon's. Elon has done much good for America and the world, and he is popular too, but he needs to tread very carefully. All the money in the world, thankfully, won't beat Trump's connection with the people. Well, what a week in politics in Australia, and what an utterly disgraceful turn of events that Greens Senator Dorinda Cox's defection to Labor was. Wow. Both the big left-wing parties demonstrating a complete disregard and snub to Australia's voters. You voted for a Green, you get a Labor senator. Nice. Once again, they don't care what the people want. I reckon that sort of resignation from a party like that should cause a Senate vacancy until the following election. That'd make them respect the public a bit more. It seems that all Anthony Albanese's gained by taking Cox into the Labor fold is a lot of hassles. She's still facing criticisms from staff about bullying, and she may even face legal action from a group of former staffers, according to a report on ABC Radio's AM program this week. So this just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for Labor. The final Senate count has been good for One Nation. Meanwhile, they've picked up 2 new senators, doubling their numbers in the upper house and bringing them to 4 senators overall. That is the same as the National Party, even including the fact that Matt Canavan is technically LNP. So that's 4-4 now. Pauline Hanson's daughter, unfortunately, didn't get a win in Tasmania. The new One Nation senators are Warwick Stacey in New South Wales, who we spoke to on this show before the election. He was a good bloke. And Tyron Whitten in WA. Hanson says One Nation is fast becoming a serious alternative to the Nationals, and she slams the Nats and the major parties for betraying regional Australians by backing destructive renewables, she says, and failing to deliver real leadership. Meanwhile, the Liberals continue to lurch from drama to drama this week. In Victoria, their former leader, John Pizzuto, might have scraped together a loan from a party-affiliated entity, whatever that is, and he will be able to pay that more than $2 million he owes lawyers and fellow Liberal MP Moira Deeming after she successfully sued him for defamation. Mental note, Probably best not to paint people as Nazi sympathisers and then try to kick them out of your political party just because they're standing up for women's rights against trans ideology, if you don't want to get sued, mate. The federal court in December ordered Pizzuto to pay $300,000 in damages and cover Deeming's legal costs totaling $2.3 million. Those lawyers never lose, do they? After Pizzuto failed to pay the full amount, Deeming initiated bankruptcy proceedings. If that proceeds, it could disqualify Pizzuto from Parliament and trigger a by-election in his marginal Victorian seat of Hawthorn. Former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett went into bat for Pizzuto this week, saying the party should help him out financially, but understandably not everyone agrees. The divisions between moderates and conservatives run very deep in the Liberal Party, and this case really reflects those incompatibility issues in the Liberal Party that we've been talking about on this show since the election. The church is way too broad, guys. And further south in Tasmania, things are even more chaotic. The Liberal Party premier down there has been ousted after a super narrow 18-17 no confidence vote in Parliament on Thursday. The motion was initiated by the Labor leader, Dean Winter, against Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe. It was driven by concerns over escalating state debt, delays in infrastructure projects, and a contentious AFL stadium project. Rockcliffe has announced plans to seek an early election now, potentially the state's fourth election in 7 years, if the governor approves. We really deserve better governance right across Australia. I just don't know how we're going to get it. Our system is not bringing us the best and brightest, that is for sure. If you like The Other Side, one of the best ways you can support us is by signing up for the products of our sponsors. And one of our best sponsors is PIA VPN, the virtual private network that stops people spying on your internet activity. It'll keep you and your family truly safe from the prying eyes of big governments and corporations without slowing down your internet speeds. And you can watch Netflix or other streaming services using your regular accounts with them as if you're viewing from any country in the world. You can sign up for less than $3 a month and get a whopping 83% off the normal price. Just go to piavpn.com/otherside to sign up and you'll get the discount. And you'll get more info on those special deals if you check it out. That's piavpn.com/otherside. That was a segment from a recent episode of our fortnightly news commentary show, The Other Side, with me, Damien Curry. If you liked it, support us. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube right now so you don't miss a thing. It's totally free. Just click that subscribe button and the little bell. And check out our Other Side Unplugged show too, and join our mission to actually do something and change Aussie media for the better at othersidetv.com.au. That's othersidetv.com.au. Check it out now.